Okay, good evening, everyone. So, of course, it's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if I'm going to be teaching anything, but I'm certainly going to want to bring to you this lesson that is basically a couple of chapters of a book that I really love from Hermans de Foucault called, in Portuguese would be Escutando Sentimentos, like listening to your heart or to your sentiments. And there are two chapters dedicated to arrogance and humility. And what I found interesting is, because what I find interesting is that she departed from what we find if you go to a dictionary and say, what is it? Arrogance. And then she said, okay, that's what you know about it according to your dictionaries, but I'll tell you, I'll give you an expanded view of arrogance. And so I thought that was very interesting, and I decided to bring that over here for you tonight. All right, so that's, you recognize that face there? It's not me. Okay, let's start by asking ourselves if we know what are the two pillars of all problems of humanity. So you certainly speak about that several times, and the spirits talk about it several times in the several Kardec books. And I'm sure you know, but we're here talking about pride and selfishness. According to the spirits, those are the two major problems of humanity, and of course, they manifest themselves in several different ways, many different ways. So it's not say, well, I'm going to work on my pride. It's almost like impossible to do without knowing exactly what side of it, what aspect of it I want to work on. I want to work on my selfishness, and then, of course, you have this basic idea of selfishness is all about, like in those little girls, it's me, wow. Yeah, that's part of it. But what else is part of it that I need to work on? Okay. Question. Tough question. Let's start with the tough questions. Could it possibly be that I might be just a little bit arrogant? Just a little bit. Okay. Somebody said, well, my little bit is this size. Well, you can tell by her face what she's saying. Well, you guys are all wrong. I'm not arrogant at all. And that's one of the problems that we are faced. We don't recognize arrogance. We don't tell everybody, say, hey, I just found out that I'm too arrogant. Because, we don't do those things, do we? I don't know about you, Gustavo. Let's then do the little exercise here. I want you silently, don't tell anybody, just keep that in mind, how arrogant you think you are from 0 to 10. Just think of a number, 0 being not arrogant at all, and 10 being very, extremely arrogant. So, you have your numbers? All right, so keep that number in mind, and then we'll come back to it. So, but before I say, well, arrogance is that bad, can arrogance be good? Just like actually Hermans de Foucault touches on that in the same book. We have a lot of sentiments, a lot of things that we think are basic sentiments that are bad, and actually they were not created to be bad. For example, sadness, was not created to be bad, was created for you in the right amount of sadness for you to quiet your mind so that you can look and find for solutions, right? Because if you keep running at the same speed, thinking about 10,000 things at the same time, you're not going to find solutions. So then you get a little sad, and then you a little quiet, and then you think about that issue and come up with a solution. But the problem with all the primary sentiments is that we mix them up with things like, for example, arrogance, right? And then they don't achieve their purpose. Same thing with arrogance. Those that said, oh, if I were to rate myself in that scale from 0 to 10, right now I think I'm Zero. Well, that's not good. We need a little bit of arrogance. And we're going to talk about it in one of the slides here. But the right amount of arrogance help us get the encouragement we need to pursue growth and self-realization. So you need to have a little bit of that in the terms we're going to discuss, so that you just don't stay there. You go after something. You have the boldness to pursue difficult goals in life. And attraction to challenge. So you all of a sudden you love challenges as opposed to hide from them. So it's good to have a little bit of arrogance. I don't know if that's 1, 2, or 3 in that scale. But yeah, we need to have some of that. As a result of arrogance, okay, we have leaders, we have idealists, we have visionaries, we have inventors, people that see the future with a magnifier, and he puts himself in there and says, I'm going to do it. So that's good. It's not bad. The issue is excess of all that. Because then you move into a passion. Passion is basically your inability to control your desires, your impulses. And of course you go overboard. You start to crave for more and more and more of whatever that is, prestige, for example. And ultimately you find yourself not very in equilibrium in your mind. Okay, pride and selfishness we started with, and that generates or arrogance comes from that, from those, and to the extent that it's a little bit too much of arrogance, all the way to 10 in that scale, you're going to see the following. Arrogance is non-confirmation. It comes from not accepting who we are, where we are, whom we are with, how much we have accomplished, how rich we are, how beautiful we are. And it's a non-acceptance of the way I see myself right now. Right? And then because of this non-acceptance, I have to pretend, I have to create a different image of myself. And I have to sell myself as if I were something else, not what I am. And normally comes together with rebellion. You become a rebel. And because of course you don't accept things, and you fight against reality. And then rebellion, what it does is to magnify the bad side of arrogance. Okay. I have to say one thing though. With this new timing and shorter time that I have, here, I'm gonna kind of fly a little bit. Okay. Now this is probably the most important slide here in terms of what we're going to communicate, and then we work from now on that slide. So if you think arrogance like in this circle right in the middle of this page, then arrogance, it has more than 4 aspects in terms of behavior, but the 4 key behaviors according to Arrogance is that prepotency, rigidity, competition, and imprudence. So they say, then to be arrogant, I have to have all that? Sort of. Some of you will have 3 of them, some will have 6 of them. And not all of them will manifest itself at the same intensity, stuff like that. But yeah, they are crucial part of the behaviors around arrogance. In rigidity, for example, you are inflexible. You are the owner of the truth. You don't accept anybody's input. You know it all. You don't need anybody. So it has to do with self-containment. You are self-contained. You have everything. You don't need anything. And then you become authoritarian. Okay? Do what I say. Full stop. Don't ask. Don't tell. Just do it. Right? And stubbornness, because you really are not open. You are closer to the external world. It doesn't matter how much even a psychologist try to put in a mind of a guy that's terribly arrogant, that there's a different way to look at it. So, gee, I wasted my time coming over here to see you. That's all you're going to get. And of course, all of that leads to a high level of intolerance. Does that make any sense so far? Good, good. So, the other side of it is imprudence or imprudence. An imprudent guy is a guy that tends to go over limits, tend to have to get, to take risks that are bigger than somebody would normally take, do things in a way that's riskier, right? And that causes a lot of anxiety. And also, the guy is always looking for perfection. He can go beyond the limit and be the winner. And all of that is related to power. I do all that to prove that I am powerful. I can do it. All right. So prepotency leads to things like megalomania and presumption. So I have this thing that my word's much bigger and much better. I am bigger and better. And I can do whatever I can. That's why I'm much better. I'm superior to start with. So if you want to talk to me, first of all, I need to accept that. Of course, they're not going to say. They're going to just show in between the lines. And that's vanity. And then last, competition. So it's interesting because, this is a lifeline for the arrogant. You need to be competing all the time. So you need to be better than somebody. So, what's the point of being just better? You need to be better than everybody. And then you have this big competition. You are the bigger and the better. And then you can do more. You can accomplish more. Now look how much I accomplished so far. Oh, how does it compare to how much you accomplished? So, and then this sense of competition creates this impulsivity toward dispute. So we're disputing a place with that person, no matter who the other person is. So he lives on the basis of comparing himself to everybody. Now, what happens when he goes home and says, well, I did say that I'm better than and I know more than, but I guess not. So guess how much suffering that's going to cause. Everything that we're saying here, you look at what we do as arrogant, and then we have to say, when I go to bed, what that causes to me. Having to defend a personality or a person or an individual or even a spirit, that's not there. That's somebody else. I don't want to criticize any author, but look at how many people try to copy Divaldo Franco from the way they present themselves to the way they speak. Of course, the biggest thing here is envy. So I envy you. That's because I want to tell you that I'm better than you. I shouldn't envy you. I am better than you are. So now, we spoke about rebellion, being a rebel. And we said, okay, that magnifies those four: vanity, power, envy, tolerance, and everything else, to an extent that is really dangerous to the person. And using those lens of the rebellion, we say, when it comes to prepotency, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, there's no uncertainty, okay? I'm not fallible. I always accomplish what I decide to accomplish, and I have no doubt whatsoever. By the way, I don't need your help. And when it comes to rigidity under rebellion, we have this big respect for somebody else, for others. And also we have this resentment or something like that, whatever you want to understand by melindres. We spent 5 minutes here trying to find the right word for melindres in English. I'm going to tell you resentment for now, and let's see if we can get by with that. Life is not what I want it to be, so I am have this very thin skin. So be careful what you're going to tell me, because I may have to just trip over you. I'm going to catch you. When it comes to competition, we downplay or show indifference to other successes. Oh yeah, he did that, but guess what? It was not really him. It was his mom and dad who really did that for him. Yeah? Oh yeah, but he, was helped by, he got lucky. So we downplay others' successes, accomplishments, achievements. Why we do that? Well, otherwise, how are we going to be above him or her, right? And in prudence, we are very good at transgressing. No respect for limits. Of course, because limits are for the normal people. I'm not normal. I'm much better. I'm superior. I don't have limits, right? So, and of course, you have a need to control, to dominate. Because if you don't dominate, that guy may come back to you and prove you wrong. Okay. So, according to Armand Dufault, this is a quite complete, picture of all the aspects, ramifications, behavior, sentiments of arrogance. So, arrogance is not just one little thing, so I need to work on my arrogance. So, okay, start with intolerance, and then let's see how much you can do. Or start with your view that you are the most powerful person in the world. Okay, it's this kind of a summing up that one. In rigidity, if you can imagine those 4 domains, I am in control. This is to help you memorize a little bit, that big chart. When in rigidity, in that domain, I am in control. So that equates to authoritarianism, okay? In competition, in that domain, I am the best. When it comes to imprudence, I want it. I'll go after it. I just want to have it, and I will. No matter what the limits are, what the difficulties are. In prepotency, I can. No, if I can, nobody else can. If I can't, nobody else can. Because I'm the measure, I am the comparator. All right. Arrogance obscures our sense of reality, and this is the key issue. We believe so much in what we think about us, about the world, and other people, that we become blind to reality. Or if we run the risk of finding reality, just deny it. Our ego is prepared to just filter that away. Because nothing can get in the way of me being the person that I think I am. So we lose the sense of reality just because the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves, which is a completely distorted way of looking into ourselves. When disconnected with reality, then we interpret facts and people in a distorted way. And we do that not only in relation to this moment, but we act on the past and we also act on the future. As far as the past is concerned, I'm going to go back and, whenever I think about something that hurt me, the criticism that I got, moments of depression, what do I think? Somebody else's fault. It was not me. This is unacceptable that somebody thought of, that regarding me. Who does he think he is? So that's the way we see the past, our mistakes from the past. Somebody led me to, or was not really me, it was somebody else who did it. As far as the future, that's interesting. This is the nice part of being arrogant, okay? We have this wonderful and magnified view of the future. And we live in that fantasy that we are that superior person that's going to benefit the most from this future that's really up on the clouds, on the sky, or a nice castle, by the sea. We also, here's interesting, and I'm sure you're going to relate to this. We start to believe that we are here, particularly if we are spiritist, a good spiritist, then we are here because we are in a mission, right? And we are missionaries. But it doesn't have to be spiritist. So you think you are special. That's the thing. You are so special. It gets the causes, of course. Disconnection also is a way to escape from or avoid difficulties in the present time. You only have problem if you are just a regular person. If you are this superior, this big, then everybody else is wrong, and you just need to find a way to prove them wrong. And so you escape from reality. On a psychological disorder, from a psychological disorder standpoint, that causes this inability to perceive reality. So I have come across, given my profession, of a huge number of people that nothing can change the way they view certain things. It's always because of him, because of her. It's always, she never listened to me. If she did, she would be great by now. Okay. So, kind of summing up all the implications of this issue of not living the present, not living the reality as is. So we lose control, we lose our self-control. We are very inflexible as to person convictions, inflexible. So I don't know how come you are so convicted about that. So you are so sure about it. That can't be right. We find pleasure in judging others and labeling others, because you see, if I label you like you are whatever, and I'm afraid of using the wrong word here, then if I feel like he is, I'm not. We used to exercise power, have these ears that need to exercise power. If you put me in front of TV and there's nothing for me to do, I'm powerless. I can't live in that reality, in that circumstance, in that context. We, of course, reject criticism as much as we can. We deny our sentiments. Okay? So you're feeling a little bit of a depression because your spirit is telling you you are not who you think you are, and we feel a little bit depressed because of that, and then we do what? We deny it. So, well, I guess I had a bad day today, I'm going to go to bed. We have answers to everything. So you can easily recognize somebody that has that particular problem. We lack appreciation for other efforts. We're self-sufficient in our decision-making process. We don't need inputs. So don't tell me anything, because if you tell me, you're going to just don't do it. I know what I'm doing. We block empathy, which is so crucial in relationships, for example. So you were feeling a little bit anxious, and they say, it's, okay, deal with your anxiety. I'm going to go to the game, and then I'll come back. Hopefully you're going to be okay when I come back, because this anxiety is nothing. You need to get over it. I've heard that. Obscure affection, and make one believe to have a greater power than he or she actually does. It's a willingness to go beyond one's own limits. We discussed that. Demand more from others. Because you think you are entitled to much more. Okay? Don't think about your spouse. I'm talking about anybody, right? I'm entitled to much more than what you give me. And the quality must be better, by the way. Not only more, but better. Because I am entitled. I deserve. Have a feeling that we are special. We assume that we can tell right from wrong. So we know what's right, what's wrong. Okay? Don't get confused. If you get confused between what's right and wrong, just call me. Assume that we know others intimately, so I know exactly what your problem is. I can tell you what you need to do, exactly. I know you, although we have met only 5 minutes ago. Underestimating the value of others. Okay, so I'm confused. Okay, what do I do now? Now that you dumped all that bad news and all that several different ways of looking at our arrogance, and don't leave me alone here. And I need to reduce my arrogance from that level that I thought, that I actually now think I am, to a much lower level. Okay, Mr. Know-it-all. So the most, again, revising or reviewing, the most prominent aspect of arrogant behavior is the ownership of truth. The person is normally compulsive. There's this need to be always right. The arrogant is proud of being right. Okay. It's a psychological process, no doubt about it. Of course, we can look at this from a psychological standpoint, but it's a spiritual process as well. So you were having this issue, or going through that situation, because that reflects your spiritual development. So when we get to humility, one of the first things we need to talk about is, all right, take a picture of yourself and then talk to that picture and find out who you are. And that is really the first step. As I said, we're going to fly a little bit, but this we cannot pass. All right. When they arrived, and these are the disciples and Jesus at Capernaum, Jesus asked them about what they have been discussing along the way. The disciples kept quiet, though, because they have been disputing who was the greatest amongst them. So, of course, you know this passage from the books, from the gospel. So Jesus knew, of course, what they've been talking about. And then they said, well, you guys have been so busy talking about. And then they, whoa, what am I going to say now? But they've been talking about, who are the best amongst us? Well, then Jesus said, it shouldn't be that way among yourselves, the disciples. To the contrary, he who wants to be the greatest must be your servant. And then, of course, in this little picture, we see Jesus showing what it is, what it means. Mm-hmm. When Jesus does something like that, he expected the disciples to do the same. If I, your master, washed your feet, you also should wash each other's feet. I offered you such an example for you to do the same among yourselves. So instead of disputing here who is the greatest, just position yourself to be the greatest first. You can't be the greatest just because you think you are. You have to position yourself and do the things that will entitle you to be called, greatest. Okay, right. So then, kind of summing up that what makes someone important is his or her ability to serve and do. So when you think about Mother Teresa, for example, or Chico Xavier, what made them the greatest was not money. We know that, right? What was it? The most important Brazilian of last century, and that was a title he got outside of Spiritism, was just a recognition of the country, Chico Xavier. So our inability to do so stems from our difficulty to recognize our true development level. We judge others so that by seeing the other diminished, we feel greater. Okay, so that's humility. I'm sorry, that's arrogance. We're going to talk a little bit about humility. But before we do so, there's a slide that's coming up here, but let me shortcut it. At the beginning, we rated ourselves, as far as arrogance from 0 to 10, before we discussed what we discussed about all the aspects of it. Now imagine that same chart, with scale from 0 to 10. And how do you see yourself now with all that added knowledge? So is that same number, lower, or higher? Because now we know there's more to it than just go to the dictionary and read about arrogance. It's much more than that. Arrogance per se doesn't do anything. It's like money. Nobody can say money is bad or good. Is what we do with the money, right? That's going to determine that. Same thing with arrogance. Arrogance can even be good, as we discussed, at the right amount. Okay, humility. Humility is to, as I said, before anything else, get to know oneself, yourself. And this per se is a huge challenge. So it comes over time after a lot of work and hypervigilance to a certain extent. Have to be vigilant so that you can read your soul and compare to higher patterns coming from the higher levels. It's a state of mind in which a person does not need to compare himself to others. You see, the arrogant, he's only good or bad if he compares to somebody himself. Instead, it compares himself with his own desired profile and objectives. So you have to know yourself. Then you say, boy, I know it's okay that I am who I am, because this is how much I have managed to work on myself, develop myself, all along all these, I don't know how many, hundreds of incarnations, right? And I am here. Okay, but that's not enough. I need to, before I leave this world, I still need to progress a little bit more. So then you are concerned about where you stand versus where you would like to be, not in that world of fantasy, but following the steps of Jesus, right? So all those lessons that we learn here. The arrogant does not love him or himself, does he, the need to compulsively get into dispute, and as a consequence suffer from a destructive envy. So we need, that's just a comparator here. So when we incorporate humility, we accept who we are as we are, including our imperfections. Including our imperfections. I remember one of the lectures or the study we did here was about our shadows, our sombras, right? And yeah, you have to go and dig and accept them because if you don't, there's no way you're going to be able to work on them. By learning to love ourselves, we eliminate the anxiety related to the need to keep competing with others. Okay, we just need to love ourselves for who we are and our purpose in life, what we have been accomplishing, what I want to accomplish. We don't need to measure our accomplishment versus others. We are here with a different agenda. Okay, if I'm rich or poor, do the things that I suffer from, etc. So I'm here to accomplish a certain agenda, and that no one's agenda is more important or less important to others. It's only important to me. So why do I need to kind of reinvent myself? No, you're not really working on yourself that way. We distance ourselves from the insatiable need for prestige and recognition. So, for example, when it comes to charity, for example, what is it we learn? So just do charity, not waiting for any, or not expecting any rewards, right? Same thing here. Okay. Again comes Jesus here, and then was explaining, do not seek for the front seats on earth, or put yourselves above others if you don't want to take the risk of being obligated to move down to the back. Seek instead the most humble places, not places, because God will know where you belong to. Okay? So we're just fooling ourselves by thinking that we are bigger or better. And then, how many cases we see in books, in Spiritist books, of people that got to the other side and said, oh, well, that's not, something's wrong here. That guy that I see up there, he used to work for me. What's wrong here? Low self-esteem. This comes from, it's another aspect of arrogance, is low self-esteem, which reflects the depletion of our intimate forces as we travel through our illusions, coming from the over self-evaluation. There's no way. One day, if you build your house at the shore, by the sea, one day that castle is going to be taken away by the tide. And then what? That happens in the real world. When you look behind and there's something that's missing, you feel like empty. And so that's not a good feeling. I don't know. I just presume. Okay. What leads to the existential emptiness? That's the thing, right? Okay. I'm going to stop here in this whole thing. The Spirit's book, we say, when you have eliminated the selfishness that dominate them, or when men have eliminated the selfishness that dominate them, They will live as brothers with no harming to each other and rather help each other mutually, fostered by their mutual sense of solidarity. We are weak, we are equal, we suffer from different things, but for different purposes, but at the, inside of us, we are equal, we're just brothers and sisters. Then the stronger will be the supporter of the weaker instead of his oppressor, and no longer man depleted from the basics for his survival will be seen because everybody will practice the law of justice. This is the type of world that the spirits are here to help prepare. So, of course, this is a quote coming from question 916 on the Spirit's book. So that's what we're shooting for. One day, whether we want or not, we're going to get there. And I can't wait to be there. But I know there's a long way to go. So for now, I have to do the things that I'm talking about here. I have to look into myself. I have to read my sentiments. I have to be humble enough to recognize the areas claiming help, looking for help inside of me. And when I catch myself doing or having the behaviors that we saw in that chart, I have again to be humble enough to say, that is not right. That is not what I want to do. And then, of course, we have two sides of us, the old us, that came here from previous incarnations. And then there is the new us, which is the one we are working on right now to replace the old one and live here for the next better than the one that came in. So thank you very, very much for your patience. Thank you for being here instead of watching the GOP debate. Thank you. Thank you.